Okay. So we're recording. Sonia, you
Give
up?
me a second. Let me get the one that I want open. This one. Okay. So this is for Proposition 68 statewide parks program, and it's round 4. The application is due December 14th, 2020, and it is a competitive grant. We have a maximum of 100 points, and the point system is just like very competitive. The amount available for in funding is $395 million. The grant will be awarded sometime in summer of 2021, and projects must be completed by March 2025. The minimum grant request we can make is $200,000, and the maximum we can request is $8.5 million per park. So we would be able to apply for multiple parks if that's something that wanted to happen. But after reviewing the fact finder and the timing, a small focus group decided that Central Park would be the best and most competitive park for this project, based on the ratio of 3 acres per 1,000 residents within a half-mile radius, and or having a median household income of less than $56,982. So we went ahead and did the fact finder, which is what they use to figure out the median household income for the park. And as you can see here, we placed it in Central Park, and the median household income is $42,083. And then the amount of acres per 1,000 residents is 2.21. So we're under in both of those areas. So that's good. And then we can either create a new park, expand an existing park, or renovate an existing park. And we're going to be renovating an existing park. We will be having 7 public comment meetings. 5 are required for the grant, but we decided to do 7. To get maximum points, we must inform and invite all residents who live within a half-mile radius of the park. And then also having volunteer opportunities and consulting with the California Conservation Corps gives us points in certain areas. Any questions in regards to that?
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
So the map shows you the radius of where we have to address. So this is the radius as well. That's the half-mile radius. And all the scoring criteria and the eligibility comes from that piece of data. Okay. So let me go ahead and screen share the next piece. So I think we'll do this. That didn't come up properly. Let me do that again. I think this keeps coming up. I'm not sure why. Okay, there it is. So this is a flyer that we created. It's in both Spanish and English. I'll go over these things that we're doing. Obviously, technically, the first thing we've done is this stakeholder meeting. What we're going to do is 3 meetings in the park itself. The 3 meetings will be done exactly the same. The purpose of it is to have different days and times of day so that everybody gets an opportunity to go. So the first one is on a Saturday at 10 a.m. The second one and the third one on the September the 16th during the week. One is at 3 o'clock and one is at 6 o'clock. So the idea with that is, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do. Basically, on the day, we will have a 11 by 14 map of the park with some instructions on the back. And what we will basically tell them is there are 3 things we're looking for. One, what features do you want in the park and where do you want those features? Using the map as their way of putting them, here's what I want, the skate park over here. They also have to put on the map or write down what they think is needed for security, if anything. So lighting, for example. And then the 3rd section is beautification. What do we do? What do we need to do to beautify the park itself? So they'll have instructions about that. The other thing, if you look at this map, on the other side of this street, 10th Street, is the senior center. So one of the instructions we'll have is, how do you incorporate this park so that the senior center and seniors at the senior center would want to cross the road and come into the park? So an example of one of the instructions we'll be giving. Once we've gone through this and collected the data, we will then do, and during the 3 meetings, we will make sure that we give people the information of a Zoom meeting. The Zoom meeting will basically be an opportunity for us to take all the data from the first 2 and round it up to say, here's what we've heard, here's what we've heard the most of, here's what we've heard the least of, here's where we think everybody wanted this, what do you think? So give everybody an opportunity to make some comments, see if things need to be changed. And that will be done with a landscape architect. The Wallace Group has agreed to do it pro bono. So they'll be a part of this Zoom meeting, taking down notes. They'll also have some kind of a beginning draft site plan based on the data that's been collected on the other 3 days. So we'll be presenting something that's very rough. Based on that, we'll then get to a more detailed draft and we'll do a charrette in the park. And basically what the charrette will do is we'll outline, like with, I think Shannon suggested this, but outline with some paint, showing where each item or each feature will be in the park. And also having some boards up that says, this is what that feature will look and here's where it will be. So that'll give everybody one last opportunity to walk through the park with the final ideas. Then we will have the first, between the charrette and the Rec Commission, we will have a final markup sketch and some drawings, some renderings of what the park will look like. The presentation to the Rec Commission will be a final plan, what will be submitted in the application. But it will be a public meeting for comments. And then the final thing we will do, which will be on December the 8th, is we will take everything to council for a resolution to approve the submission of the application. So that's pretty much the steps we're going to take. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. Okay, you've seen the flyer. For sharing purposes, let me show you. We also created, no, it's not on here. We also created a Facebook page. Does everybody see this, or is it just me seeing it?
We don't see anything.
Okay. For some reason, it's not showing up on my shared for some reason. I don't know why that would be. So we did create a Facebook page. It says Central Park, Guadalupe. I started this page about a couple of weeks ago. We have 25 people that like it and are following it. And when we posted the flyers, we've have up to now 29 likes and 13 shares. So the word is getting out, in other words. In addition, we will be posting the, we will be putting the flyer into the utility bill. So we've already printed them out. They're ready to go. What's the date? Do you know, Sonia?
It's the first of the month.
Okay. So first of the month they go out, which will be good enough time for the September 12th first event. They'll go out with it on an English and Spanish flyer. I think back to back, right? Yeah, so it's one page with the English on one side, Spanish on the other. That's up to now what we've done. I think one thing that I'll probably do is send the flyer out both English and Spanish to our larger interested parties list, so that they can also help spread the word. And then we'll probably give it to some of the organizations that are close by, like the Historical Society, Little House, those sorts of places that are around, in and around the area. So that's our outreach. Is there any comments or suggestions on the outreach?
Do you want to use the marquee at all?
Yeah, thank you. I think there was a conversation about using the marquee, yeah, at least for that first event, because we can't put all three of the up, but we could.
So I put it in the spreadsheet.
Good.
And I put it in for all of the first 3 events.
Oh, good. So they can go up and change them?
Yeah, and I spoke to Josue and I told him that they would change just the dates and times so that he's aware of it when he's putting it up, so he can make it as easy as possible for himself.
Is that why Charlie was asking about getting you access?
Yes.
That's hilarious. Okay, I'm glad.
And Charlie is here, but he's very quiet.
I'm very invisible too.
Yes, I'm very
yeah.
relaxed here at home.
Okay, so if there's no other questions about that, so the next thing is, so the next thing is there any, from the perspective of everybody in the room right now, are there some ideas that you think the park should consider? And here's a picture of it just so you can get a better idea.
Okay, so from word I get, because people give me information like when I'm asking questions about streets and everything, I keep getting people asking for a dog park.
I think actually Sonia put that on the flyer as well.
Yeah, well, if I can carry the message, I've gotten at least 3 people from the community who have either written or emailed me or something saying that they want a dog park.
Not specifically at Leroy Park, but just they want a dog park in general, right?
Central Park.
Yeah.
Your mind is still on.
Yeah.
Your mind is still on Leroy. No, just that the community needs one.
10 years from now, my mind will be on.
So one of the things I was just thinking about, because it is right across from the senior center, all of a sudden things that I didn't think about before: bocce ball, shuffleboard, pickleball. You know, some of the. I kept thinking kids, but we've got the senior center right across the street.
Yeah.
So what if we had more maybe senior focused activities on the north side of the park? How cool would it be? And if you actually had the equipment, like a shuffleboard or a bocce ball set over at Senior Center, you could pick it up and cross the street. That'd be so cool.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you'd have the area ready, but none of the equipment. You could
have the amenities, from the Senior Center. It'd be one interesting way to be able to have activities that need equipment that people might not ordinarily have.
I like that. Okay.
And then if we're
Senior
going to do
games.
that, we will need to probably make it safer to cross the street there. We might want
Yeah,
to
and I
consider
think
some kind of a protected crosswalk with flashing beacons or something in order to make sure that it's nice and safe there. If we've got a reason why those two are connected.
I really think, because one of the instructions that I have is that it's consider the senior center and making this welcome to seniors. And it won't be welcome if they can't cross that street.
Right.
The only thing is the grant can't pay for it.
That's okay because I've got Bob here providing me incredible opportunities through his ASIC grant to make improvements for pedestrians, and this is well within the 1 mile radius. It could be something we could fold into that because it would totally be pedestrian improvements. What do you think, Bob?
I think that's great. And it's not mine, it's ours.
I know, I tease. But you see what I'm saying is that
Yes.
we've got an interesting opportunity there that I told, so I'll bring Tom and Sonia and Charlie up to speed, and that Bob and his group and the city are working together. His ASIC grant application will be far more competitive, as I understand it. If
Hang on
there's
just a second. Somebody's doing something with their mic on, and it's recording and difficult to hear. Go ahead, Sonia. Shannon, sorry.
okay, that his grant will be far more competitive if there's a 25% transit component. Things such as cycling and pedestrians and public transportation. So what we've talked about doing is in September, we're thinking that the guidelines for the grant will be outlined enough that in the fall, I'll go to City Council with a shopping list of ideas on what we might want to consider, and then let council have some input on what items we should pursue. I can simply add this as one of the items on the shopping list. And then the timing, Bob, you said was the application is due in February and we would know in June?
Yeah, I think we would know by June-ish. I mean, so.
And that's
yeah.
around the same time as this one.
So the linkage is really good. I'll just add that on the list of an improved crosswalk there.
Sounds good to me.
So, all right.
So, anybody else? Any other ideas? Anything in particular?
Okay, you know I'm going to talk about the splash pad. You know I'm going to mention the splash pad. And it doesn't even have to be very big. I actually have a document where I took photographs off the internet and made like pages, a few pages of different ideas. There was one that was no bigger than 30 feet by 30 feet. They don't have to be big. In this picture, you can see the well. There's a well on this site. Now, the well is defunct. We want to abandon it properly through the county, and it'd be nice if the grant could help with that. And I'm hoping that can be incorporated. But what that means is that there's a fairly sizable connection to the water system there. So a splash pad in the vicinity of that well would not be hard from an infrastructure standpoint.
Okay. Sounds good. Bob, what about you? You have any ideas? I know, Charlie, you have any ideas? Any things you think? I will say that in the Facebook comments, one was a skate park. And it's come up a couple of other times too, that this would be ideal for a skate park. And then the other one that came up was exercise equipment. But that is right now, even though unfunded, is in the plans for Leroy Park.
I agree about the skate park. One of the reasons why I think this is ideal for a skate park is because you can only enter from the north and the south. They're fairly narrow entryways. It's easy to post it. Waivers, enter, play at your own risk, whatever, so that It helps from a city liability standpoint. The other thing that's interesting is a lot of people are on that pedestrian bridge exercising. I cross over it sometimes several times a day, and I'm almost always running into the same people who are basically just going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. So I can
It's not a bad
see,
little workout.
it isn't, but I can see where people are already working out in this area. It would be nice if they had something other than just their quads to work out, you know,
Mm,
a bar, or, you know, some of those I don't know what they call them, parkour or whatever things that
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
along
Oh,
there,
yeah.
like a little transit thing, through the park.
Yeah, this is Charlie. I was thinking that the way the park is situated, that if we could do maybe a 3 or 4 lane running track around the park and incorporating the bridge into that, that would be a nice little workout, basically, with a couple of stages here and there where people will stop and maybe do some stretching and whatnot. Another idea I had that I actually saw in a park located in Buellton, actually, in Solvang. Let me get this right. You see where I saw it. Let's see, it was,
Well, the other thing about the exercise is if you can make that compatible with seniors as well, you've got a good opportunity to serve both parties, you know?
right.
Oh
So,
my gosh, yeah.
my perception would be, like I said, 3 or 4 lanes, not very wide, but wide enough to be able to have a couple of people running, maybe somebody even on a wheelchair or just walking, basically,
Yeah.
so that we have that component. My memory is telling me that it was actually in Los Alamos where I saw this little park. It was involved in a neighborhood where they actually had like a little, it wasn't a gazebo, but it was designed to be like a sunken garden where it had a stage and a little area cut out with 3 or 4 different levels for people to sit in lawn chairs or in regular chairs and then watch music or watch a little play or something like that. I thought on the north end next to the senior center, that might be really nice. If we could connect that to a little multi-purpose center, that might be really nice. Something real basic that we can use as a snack bar type thing, something real simple as far as the kitchen is concerned. And a building that could be used with multiple purposes, not real big, but big enough to be able to hold a meeting or an event, a little dance or something like that for seniors.
Okay.
That's a great idea. You know, I was just thinking as Charlie was talking, you know, in Buellton, there's the River Park, and they have these, you know, tables, cement tables and cement chairs, and then they have a pergola, and it's a steel, it's got cement columns at the bottom and then a steel structure, and then they planted vines. It's kind of a nice, attractive place, you know, and they have they're clustered, and in the center is, you know, sort of a green space. So, so if you're having, we have an annual employee picnic, and we always, in the last few years, we've been having it at that park, and it's a really nice little venue. So I don't know if we'll have, if you're contemplating barbecue pits or anything else, you know, for the park as well, but.
Well, one of the things that we have to be careful of is what are we doing in Leroy Park, which has a lot of barbecue areas. So do we want them in both places? That's part of thinking in terms of, like, if we have exercise equipment in Leroy Park, would we want it here as well? You know, there's that kind of a conversation. There's nothing saying that you can't have it in both places, but you know, if you're trying to decide whether you should have X or Y, and you have X at Leroy Park, then maybe you should do Y. You know, that sort of thinking. So it's open to all of these possibilities. And I'm writing them all down. They will get into the suggestion box.
So my 2 cents worth is that the exercise equipment and track, I think would be a better fit in Central Park than in Leroy Park. because of the seniors and the connection to the pedestrian bridge.
Mhm.
That if we pulled him out of Leroy and put him here, I almost think that would make more sense. And if the splash pad goes in, I can imagine this being a perfect place for kids' birthday parties. When my kids were little, we always went to the park with the best amenities. And, you know, I could just imagine somebody with a 5-year-old doing a birthday party, you know, let the kids play at the splash park and then have a picnic table where you lay out the cupcakes and maybe have just not a big barbecue pit, just a little one where you can, you know, heat up some hot dogs.
Mhm.
So not a big barbecue area, but just an area where if you wanted to throw a little party with your 5-year-old and 8 of his friends, you could pull it off.
So here's a couple of other points that I want to bring up that I'd like some feedback from everybody on, as well as these features. So one of the things, and Shannon knows this because we've talked about it, and that is there's a train that goes by quite often. So in the beautification and in the idea of what this park should look like, how do we turn heads? And the reason this is important is because most of the people who are on the train do not stop and get off in Guadalupe. And the long-term goal for Guadalupe is for it to become a destination location. So it's not that that should be the main feature, but when you think in terms of beautification of the park, think about how do we incorporate that into the boundary that runs next to the railroad, right next to the train lines, because the train goes right by. And right now, is there anything there? Is it just a fence?
It's not
Just
even
a
a
fence.
fence. It's
There's
not
not
even
even a fence there, is there? No, that's what I thought.
there's not even a fence.
There's a fence there.
Is there? Oh,
Yeah.
now I can see it. Okay. Yeah.
There is a fence. You can't really see it in this picture, but there is a fence.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah.
fence. But
So-
but I can see when I'm on the train, I can see the far fence. I can see the fence on the west side.
Okay.
The fence from the back of the houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, that fence becomes a question of, is there something that we can do with that fence that runs along the property line there that beautifies it?
Come
The
visit
other-
Guadalupe. It'd be really cool if it was colorful and said,
Yeah.
"Come visit Guadalupe."
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other
It
thing
takes-
that we
oh,
want
sorry.
to, sorry, the other thing we want to include is to think in terms of the jail. The jail is on the property, and it is a historical jail. It is managed by the Guadalupe Historical Society. I understand that there's some kind of a question of who pays the electricity bill, and that it's possible that the lighting and electricity is paid by the Historical Society so that there's security in that area. So things like that we'd probably have to look at. The other question is over by the water tower. So the water tower and everything over in that area is actually, you know, part of the park. It's inside the park itself. So is there something related to the water tower that can make the water tower, in essence, a part of the park rather than separated?
Okay.
Now,
So it's funny that you
You
should
were
say
going
that.
to, yeah.
Because as I'm looking, of course, the idea came into my mind and it's stupid. It's stupid, but it's funny. There was a park up in San Francisco area that was nothing but a bunch of ropes, right? This rope structure that the
Yep.
kids could climb on. All of a sudden, I'm looking at that water tower going, how funny would it be if we did ropes from side to side and you actually made the bottom of the water tower a jungle gym? It'd be hilarious.
Well, I think that is a critically important part of what we decide. I think you've got a space there that could be utilized. In
Yeah.
fact, there was somebody on Facebook that actually suggested a
I mean, well,
climbing climbing wall. And he suggested that you can have climbing walls that are for young kids that don't go very high.
Yeah.
And then you could actually have a climbing wall that's a proper one. And he actually suggested that there is a very strong climbing community, both in San Luis Obispo and Santa Maria.
Yeah, my son
and
is
Santa
part of it.
Barbara. There
My
you go.
son is a climber.
Yeah, and so his suggestion was you could also have one that is an official proper climbing.
Mhm.
The only thing is I don't think from the city's perspective, we would want to operate that.
No, we would
So
probably
I
want
think
to
you'd
stick
have to
to
have
the
a
lower
partnership.
ones.
I think you do the lower ones, and if you did the higher one, you would have a partnership with a local climbing company that would operate it when we're not, it would only be able to be operated when they were there.
Yeah, I think that might be going just a little bit.
Mhm.
I personally think it's a little too far. I like the idea of the little baby. I shouldn't say baby. The little ones, the ones that aren't
Yeah.
more than 3-4 feet off the ground.
Yeah. Well, I think, and maybe both of those things, maybe the ropes and the climbing piece as well.
Mm.
You were going to do a check on this one though, right, Sharon?
Yes. Okay. So I had 2 people out here yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And they were looking at radio frequencies. I talked with them, so I learned a lot about it. The safest place to be is directly under the tower, believe it or not, because the way those antennas work is they go out like almost like spotlights. And the biggest harm is getting burned by them, and that's when you're like up really, really close to them, kind of like how a microwave works. But I had somebody take readings at 6 different spots in the park, and I don't know how to read the numbers, so I got the preliminary ones. They don't look bad.
Okay.
So there wasn't any place that went, oh, we have to be concerned. But I'm going to get the report and get a little bit more information about it. But the guy was basically saying, based on these numbers, you have more harm holding a cell phone up to your ear than you do with the
Great.
readings from this. But to have it documented, I think will put people's minds at ease. No, we take this seriously. We take our kids' safety seriously. We've looked at it. Here's our report.
I suspect that will have to be incorporated anyway because with the sequel, and it'd be good to have that information ahead of time.
I agree. And it's one of those that, because some people look at that and go, oh, that's scary. I'm not going to let my kids play there. It's good for them to know, no, we've checked it. This is okay. So
when you think about the park, think about the tower is in the park.
It is. And I talked to Mike about the area just north of the tank. There's like this area, there's some stuff in there. So we will need to talk about, if you wish to utilize that space, we're going to have to talk about kind of like the same thing of the bending of the well. We're going to have to treat it very specifically, and we're going to have to make sure those costs are incorporated into the grant, is taking care of some of the just features that are in there and what it'll take to get rid of them to make that space usable. Also, I don't know if you know that this is more than one property.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah, I don't know how much that matters, but since I'm doing an easement vacation and a property line adjustment for Bob, I figure, I'll cut my teeth on that, and then we'll figure out how to do it for this one.
So in regards to that, it doesn't matter that, but I think for the city's cleanup purposes, it makes sense.
Right.
And then the other question was, so we have to address the parking, which is here, which would, if we're going to fix it, obviously it's got to have handicap accessible parking as well, which it doesn't have right now, I don't think.
No, I'm kind of thinking it might need a couple more spaces too.
Yeah, so we have to consider that. And then the other question is there a way, and Shannon and I talked about this as a feature, is it may be that we'll be able to incorporate a little bit more land that is public land right now.
Yeah, I took a look at that. You're talking about the land on 9th Street?
Yes, it would actually incorporate in essence, it would incorporate the bridge.
Yeah, I looked at it. It's going to be tricky.
Okay, all right.
Maybe doable, but I don't think we can take it much more of what's in the street because those houses go up practically to the railroad. So we
Yeah.
won't be able to take the actual asphalt. We might be able to incorporate just the bridge, but
Okay.
not much past that. And the bridge would be really cool from the standpoint of beautification. It would be
Yeah.
really nice to have murals or somehow that pedestrian bridge either lit with lights. Sorry,
Yeah.
Oh.
don't want that
Yeah.
misunderstood. Or somehow otherwise painted, because right now it is it's an attractant for graffiti.
I think the pathway, at least on the park side of it, would be part of the beautification. I think it could easily be added into beautification.
I think somebody also talked about actually painting the water tank as part of beautification, putting more of a mural on that.
I think that's that would be. I'll double check with the state parks program just to be sure, but I think painting the water tower, not just painting it, repainting it for the purposes, but actually coming up with a design for the park, for the water tower to include the bottom part as being part of the park with climbing and so on, and then looking at how to make the actual tower itself interesting to see, a feature.
And do you need any match on this?
The state parks program doesn't need a match, no. There's no match. And
So,
as you know, with $8.5 million per park, we're not exactly trying to squeeze. Our biggest problem is squeezing everything that everybody wants into it.
No doubt.
Not the amount of money that all of those things would cost. I think we can easily come in with all of these features and other people's idea of features. I think we can come in with all of those within the 8.5.
So if we can take a second to talk about infrastructure, because the city, my crew, is going to be responsible for maintenance. It does need lighting, and I think the lighting should include the bridge. The tank already has lighting on it, but if we would want to improve the lighting there, that might be something. I don't know if the idea is to put some sort of restroom here on site. Might not be a bad idea to have a restroom.
Write that down.
Yeah, that was the idea for my, originally, for my multi-purpose building, is to incorporate a building where we could actually have a bathroom and then use it as for two things, actually. Can I bring something up at this point that's always been a thought in my mind? Across the street from the Central Park, on the east side, is a vacant lot that's owned by an individual here in the city of Guadalupe. I don't know if anybody's ever approached them about selling that lot, but that would be a great addition to the Central Park area.
Is that the lot that's right next to the railroad tracks itself?
Exactly.
That incorporates, Shannon. That would incorporate your additional, because you could take you'd be the whole bridge plus the land on the other side of the street.
Oh, so you're talking east of the last house on 9th Street?
I'm sorry, right.
Yes.
That was on the side, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it would.
Yeah, that would allow us
to
take a little piece.
Then you'd be able to take some of that, some of 10th Street. 9th Street.
9th Street, yeah.
Yeah, some of 9th Street. It's a good question, Charlie. So for the purposes of the grant, it would be considered, even though the time necessary to do this is quite short, but it's a better scoring, it's a better score to the project if you are expanding the park.
And
And
the other,
that definitely would be an expansion, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
Now, silly question, but can the senior center be considered part of the park?
No,
Thank you,
you've got the
Shannon.
street. It would be nice, but the street is stopping that.
Unless you put a bridge.
I could ask them if you can have, the question would be, can you have two spaces as part of an expansion that are not contiguous? And I think the contiguous issue would be the one, but I could check.
Huh. Be interesting if we could play around with the boundaries and make the lot lines in the middle of the street.
Hmm.
I mean, they both belong to the city.
Yeah.
And, they would just be easements for the public right of way. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what creative things we could do.
Yeah.
But if we then could include the senior center, then all of a sudden we can improve the senior center too.
Yes, thank you.
Well, from this, yeah, from the standpoint of, so from the standpoint of looking at all of this, there might be some value in seeing who owns that vacant lot as one option, and see if they are a willing seller. It's not necessary to sell for the project, obviously. You don't want to actually purchase it, but you would have a purchase agreement, and then that becomes an eligible cost to the project.
I was
In
told
regards-
by,
Sorry,
I was told by Shirley, who lives next to the park. She lives next to the gentleman that actually owns that whole lot. And he built a house there and bought the lot behind the house with the intent that nobody would ever build there because he wanted to make sure he had a sanctuary for his mother who likes quiet. But to be able to build a park maybe in her name with that idea might entice him to consider doing business with the city. I know who it is, and it's just a matter of probably walking across the street and just starting a conversation.
I'm happy. We're writing the application and helping with the outreach. So if the city wanted to have a conversation with that and explore that possibility, it's perfectly okay with that. Just remember, it's got to be arm's length agreement. You cannot go over there and pull out a gun and say sell.
Exactly. This is a notice of eminent domain. We're gonna buy this property.
None of that, please.
No, we wouldn't want to do that.
But so there's two possibilities. One that is being asked. I think the city should explore the vacant land. I will say, if I remember rightly, there would be a significant amount of infill needed. That land drops down quite a bit.
Actually not. It looks pretty, there's a couple of areas there where it's just as level almost as Central Park. If you actually
Really?
walk by it, it looks pretty good.
My vision is completely off on that then. But so that's one possibility, which I think, city staff can explore. I can talk to the State Parks Program about how to incorporate the senior center, or if it's possible to incorporate the senior center into this.
For safety, we might have to consider the fence on the west side, since it's adjacent to the train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
It might be sufficient for now, but I don't know if it'd be sufficient for a park.
With a lot more people in and out of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the fencing there though is not any less, I should say, than the fencing that is surrounding our Central Park anyway. It seems, in fact, the fencing with the entrance to that area seems even more rigid, to be honest with you, than the fencing that we have for Central Park. So anyway, that's an idea.
Yeah,
Can I
my
throw
thought-
something else out while I'm thinking about it? Forget it.
Yeah, go ahead, go.
As I was walking the park a while back, I kept thinking to myself, when I was a little kid, this area here it had a couple of streets there. And I played hooky one day, believe it or not, when I was about in third grade. And I sat on this one rock next to the fence there, and I saw 3 different trains go through there. And it just amazed me of how long the trains were, how beautiful they were, the locomotives and the whole bit. And I thought, what if we built a platform with some seating there so that as people go by in the train, they're looking at the park. It would be nice if we would have people to be able to sit on the platform to look at the train as the train is going by, especially for children.
In England, it's called train spotting.
Yeah.
I like that, Charlie. That's cool.
Yeah, I like that idea too. In regards to the fence and in regards to what you said, Charlie, it's all part of beautification. It's not that the fence could be served 2 purposes. One, to ensure that you don't have kids running onto the track, but it also could be a beautification process of the park itself. So that
we might choose to have that be a wrought iron rather than a chain link.
Exactly.
With a little bit more height to it, so that the Union Pacific Railroad isn't concerned about a park being right on top of their tracks.
And then incorporated into that could be a platform.
Right.
Yes, that would be nice. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, Shannon, in reference to that area that you referred to that is no longer used as water, is I thought in that area next to your water feature, a nice little volleyball pit would be nice. We put a couple of tables in there,
Yeah.
Sand volleyball pit.
Well, if we keep up with all your ideas, we definitely need more land.
Charlie has ideas for that.
Yes, he does. He does. Okay.
What are we going to do about all those trees they just planted?
Well, this gets, I don't think there's going to be any trouble with that because I think they're small enough that they probably could be transplanted to where we want them. I think the big question is where do we want trees, plants, and whatever else it is that we're going to put in there for beautification purposes?
I just know that the oaks don't transfer well.
Okay.
They are just notoriously bad. And I know a bunch of those are oaks.
Yeah.
If I can put in a plug for pulling out the ones with pine needles.
I have a question for Shannon. On the north end there, next to the senior center, there looks like it's a storage shed of some type that's located within the area of the water tower. Is that a storage shed or what is that?
It's a storage shed there.
What's in there?
Public Works has stuff in there?
Yeah. It's got storage of signs. I want to say that there's a lawnmower in there. I've never been inside, but it has street stuff in it.
Is all of that needed for Public Works?
We could have discussions about what will happen with it.
Okay. Because I think as part of that design is are we going to design so that we kind of wall off that area and beautify it? Or do we get the whole space?
I think maybe as we start talking about what the layout looks like, we can talk about that.
Okay. Sounds good to me. So the only other thing, if you have the last part of today, if anybody has any more comments, great. But the last part of today is from an outreach perspective, is there anything else that you think we can do to get a lot of people there on the 12th?
The water bill is really good.
Yeah.
People respond to the water bill. Marquee, I've had a survey up there for days and nobody's done anything with it. So, but I still think it's good to announce.
Yeah.
And then the Historical Society, I think, is good.
Yeah. And
we
then,
could try to do it. We could try to get people to donate items so we can do a raffle, and you can only win if you're there. That will bring people out.
Idea. I wonder about the unified school district. Is there any way to, is school back in at all? And maybe they can get messages through the kids and
They have
especially if
an
there's
app.
like, huh? Yeah.
They have an app.
Does anybody have access to
Oh,
the?
Yeah, we can usually get, so Sonia, can you talk to Emilio about if you can send out the flyers or the information?
I'll try to get a hold of him and see if he could potentially send it out, because I know they're all virtual now, so it's easier to send
Yeah.
it out to everyone as an announcement. So I'll see if that's possible.
Yeah, the school
Okay.
district is still providing meals to everybody. As the kids come or the parents come to pick up their meals, we can actually include a flyer or ask them to go ahead and include the flyer with that.
Great.
What we can also
There we
do
go.
is print out like bigger posters and have them put them up so that people can read them, because everybody's gonna get them in the utility bills if they get a utility bill.
Mm,
So I don't want to also give out more paper if it's not necessary. If people could read it while they're there waiting or something, I think that would be good also.
oh,
And
that-
one other
that's-
thing that's going to happen is that we're, at least for myself, maybe I should say for myself, the term charrette, when I heard it, I thought, okay,
I
you've
don't
heard
know
this
what it is.
before. Yeah, I actually had
Yeah.
went to my dictionary and I looked just to make sure that I knew what it was in reference to. So we're going to
Yeah.
educate some people. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we can, when we get closer to that particular one, we can do some good outreach to explain what a charrette is. So we can do that. Bob, does it make any sense for you to give you the flyers to send to pass out to your residents?
Sure, absolutely. I'd
Tenants?
be happy to do that. Yep.
Okay, we'll send you some because that I think is important, because your project is inside that half mile.
Yeah, that's great. Yep, we can do that.
How about access
Sounds
to the
good.
the Guadalupe Facebook page? I don't have Facebook, so I don't have access to it.
Okay.
But somebody, I think the chief does.
Yeah, and usually they haven't done it. So I don't think they do actually, because normally when I post things on the Facebook pages that I have for Guadalupe, the fire department reposts it onto theirs, and nothing like that's happened. So maybe Sonia, you could let the chief and the captain know. And then they can spread it. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, I think my agenda is done.
It's killing me because there's something I was going to say and I forgot it. That's
There's a
okay.
few more meetings. Charlie and Shannon, I'm assuming that you guys can be there on the 12th. It is a Saturday.
I think I can.
I should be there. No problem.
Okay. If not, there is those other 2 dates on the 16th.
Right.
I will be at the 12th on that date. So will Sonia. Sonia will be there on the 16th. I won't.
Oh, one other thing that I was thinking, and maybe I'm kind of reaching here, is that people come and they're going to be at the park and we're going to provide them information. If we could have or establish some kind of docent type of explanation where maybe 4 or 5 groups of people can get together with the docent who has an idea of basically what the city is trying to do, to give people more input, a chance for input, and give them a little walk through the park. I know Sonia would love to do something like that as she leads people through the park.
Yeah. So with the understanding that COVID-19 exists and mask and social distancing is there, I do like that idea, because you can point out all of the things that you want them to think about when they're thinking about what should be in the park. Like, over here is the senior center. We'd like you to think about how the senior center can be incorporated. This is the water tower. how do we beautify the water tower and how do we use it?
Yeah, they
Which is
need to
the-
know that the jail has to stay, but the water well can go.
Yeah. So yeah,
You know,
exactly. But
because people aren't going to know those little details. They're going to assume that that water well has to stay there, but it
yeah,
doesn't. So
exactly.
maybe we should
So
put
I
little
think that-
signs up, like little signs that say, "This is a water well. It is going away. This is the jail. It needs to stay. This is the water tank, but it can be beautified." You know, those sorts of things.
Yeah, we might be able to do that. That's a
They
good
can be
idea.
like laminated sheets that just give people a little bit, because I don't know, I don't do it very well when I go through houses. Like when we bought our house, I was so stuck on how they decorated it that I couldn't see how I wanted to decorate it. You know what I mean? That I'm worried people will come to this location and not be able to see the opportunities that exist because they think they're limited by what's already there.
Yeah.
Especially those new trees. People are going to go, "Oh, well, they're brand new trees. They're not going to want to move them." You know, maybe something that says, you know, the trees can be moved or the trees don't have to stay here.
So one of the things we are doing some banners to put outside the park on the fencing. It's basically will be the flyers, and the banner will be either two banners, one in English, one in Spanish, or the banner split into two, one on the English side and one on Spanish side. We're still trying to work out what that should look like. But before the 12th, there'll be a banner up there on at the north side of the park.
Be there in 10. Okay, thank you.
I think I like that better. That way people don't forget when they're standing in front of something that this can be removed. Because if you walk through with them and tell them, they can forget what you said. But if it's
Yeah.
like on the different items, then it's like clearly they'll remember when they get to the jail that it has to stay, or that when they get to
Yeah.
the whale that it can go.
Yeah. I like that idea. Okay.
Great.
Everybody done?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is awesome to hear everybody's ideas and to start, because it's interesting when you start thinking about, there are so many opportunities here.
Yeah.
Well, the other opportunity that I see right away with the water tower is to have a parachute exhibit coming down from the top of the tower like they have at Disneyland or one of these Knott's Berry Farm. And we start
you
charging.
imagine-
for
Could
people
you
to come
imagine?
down.
Could you imagine doing a zip line from the
Yeah.
water tower to the
Oh.
pedestrian bridge?
Wow. That
Now
would be
you'll get
cool.
people from all over. That's a good.
Yes, wouldn't that? I mean, if you think I've been on the zip lines before I got injured. My son and I went on the zip lines at Santa Margarita Park, and some of those zip lines were shorter than this one. You could do an awesome zip line.
One that goes around. That would be cool. All right.
Everything's on the table.
I'm writing it down.
Zip line, seriously?
Yes.
Could you imagine from the top of the pedestrian bridge if there were a little gate that stepped you out onto a platform, and there's, of course, the height. Now you got liabilities. Oh, no,
Oh,
we can't do
absolutely.
that. But still, how fun.
That's what
You'd again have to have somebody do that
we
for the city.
subcontract that out to
Yeah,
somebody.
you'd have
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Unless it were 3 feet off the ground. There would be a way to do it 3 feet. Anyway, just weird. There are amazing opportunities for this 4 acres of park.
It is. There is definitely.
Yay.
A zip line for children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think we have a pretty open palette to work with.
Surprisingly for the area.
Yeah. There are a few things in there, but I think those things are assets, not impediments.
No doubt.
Like the water tower.
Right.
Okay, everyone. I think we are done. I want to thank you all for joining us.
Tom.
We have taken notes. That doesn't mean that when we get to the Rec Commission that we'll have any of your ideas in there, but you never know.
Well, one for sure that everybody talks about is the skate park. So I think
Yeah,
that
it has been a big conversation piece here. So
Yeah, I like Shannon's idea of an enclosed hockey rink type thing. So we can put a basketball court in there also. So anyway.
yeah, you better go work on that extra piece of land that you want.
Property. Make that happen. All right,
Okay.
I gotta go. So it's good seeing you all.
Thank you, everybody.
All
Great to
right,
see
talk to you later. Okay,
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mom.
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.